The year is 1923. The location is an abandoned Victorian radio station atop a remote hill overlooking a small town nestled deep within the Catskill Mountains. Our protagonist's name is Ethan. He's a paranormal investigator and radio enthusiast who heard a strange transmission coming from this abandoned radio tower. So he set out to find its source. What he doesn't know is that he's walking into a nightmare he won't soon forget. As the wind picks up, we can hear the howling of the wind through the trees along with the pouring of the rain. Lightning flashes across the sky, momentarily illuminating the old abandoned radio tower, and the rusted weather vane atop it creaks ominously. The sound of thunder rumbles in the distance. Ethan approaches the front door of the radio station. As he does, we notice a pentagram drawn into the dirt with what appears to be human bones. Startled by the ghastly sight, Ethan quickly moves away from it, nearly tripping over a gnarled tree root in his haste to get away from it. He looks back at it for a moment, clearly disturbed by what he just saw, then continues on his way up the path to the front door. Ethan reaches out to knock on the door but stops short when he hears a loud crash from inside the building. His hand drops to his side as he stands there listening intently to the noise. More crashes can be heard, followed by what sounds like glass breaking. Ethan slowly begins to approach the door again, cautiously. This time he does not knock. Instead, he slowly opens the door and enters the building. We can see that the interior of the building is dark and dusty with cobwebs hanging from the ceiling. A single ray of moonlight pierces through a hole in the boarded-up window, illuminating motes of dust dancing in the air. The wind can still be heard howling outside along with the sound of rain and thunder. Ethan shines his flashlight around the room, revealing more details. There are several old radios and other electronic equipment scattered around the room, as well as a desk with a chair behind it. On the desk, there's a pile of papers and books, along with an old record player and a stack of vinyl records. The room is silent except for the wind and rain outside. Suddenly, a loud crash is heard and Ethan jumps, spinning around to try to find the source of the noise. He shines his flashlight around the room again, but everything appears to be in order. He slowly begins to relax, but his eyes remain sharp and alert as he continues to listen intently. Just then, a low, guttural voice begins to emanate from somewhere in the darkness. It seems to be coming from behind one of the radios, which is old and covered in cobwebs. The voice grows louder and Ethan slowly approaches the radio, his flashlight beam dancing over the various dials and knobs until it lands on the speaker grill. As he listens intently to the voice, we can see that the radio's tuning knob is slowly beginning to turn on its own, as if someone or something is trying to tune it to a specific frequency. Suddenly, the radio bursts to life and static fills the airwaves. The voice grows louder and Ethan instinctively takes a step back, knocking over a chair in the process. The voice seems to be coming from the radio now, and it's speaking in a language that Ethan doesn't understand. He takes a few steps back, his eyes wide with fear as the voice continues to grow louder. Then suddenly, the radio falls silent, and the voice is gone. Ethan slowly lowers his flashlight, his hands shaking slightly as he tries to regain his composure. Just then, a floorboard creaks above him, and he looks up, startled. He quickly shines his flashlight upwards, but can see nothing in the darkness. He looks around the room again, his eyes searching for the source of the noise, but he can't find anything. Cautiously, he begins to make his way towards the stairs, leading to the upper floor, his flashlight beam dancing over the dusty surfaces until it lands on the first step. As he takes the first step, another floorboard creaks and he freezes, listening intently. When he hears nothing, he slowly continues going upstairs. At the top of the stairs, we can see that the hallway is dark and narrow with doors on either side. The only light in the hallway comes from the moonlight streaming through cracks in the boarded-up windows. Ethan walks slowly down the hallway, his flashlight beam revealing more details. He stops in front of one of the doors, which appears to be slightly ajar. He reaches out to knock but hesitates when he hears a faint scratching sound coming from behind the door. The scratching continues and becomes more insistent, and Ethan slowly begins to open the door. As the door opens, we can see that the room beyond is pitch black. Ethan steps inside, his flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. The room appears to be empty, but the scratching continues. Ethan moves closer to the door, his flashlight beam sweeping across the room, and we can see that there are several old chairs and desks in the room, as well as a large mirror on the far wall. The scratching suddenly stops and Ethan jumps, spinning around to try to find the source of the noise. He shines his flashlight around the room, but there's nothing to be seen. He takes a few steps back, his eyes wide with fear, and we can see that his flashlight beam has revealed a figure standing in the mirror. It's a woman dressed in a long black gown, her back to Ethan. She appears to be staring at him, but we can't see her face because it's obscured by the shadow cast by her wide-brimmed hat. Suddenly, she turns her head and we catch a glimpse of her face. Her mouth is sewn shut with a thick black thread, and she has a wild look in her eyes. She takes a step towards Ethan, and he takes a step back. The woman in black continues to approach, and Ethan backs away, his eyes never leaving hers. She reaches out a hand towards him, and Ethan screams and runs from the room. We can hear the sound of his footsteps pounding on the wooden floor as he makes his way down the hallway and away from the woman in black. Ethan bursts through the front door and runs into the night. The rain is still pouring down, and the wind is still howling, but Ethan doesn't care. He's too busy running for his life. As he runs, we can see that the ground beneath his feet is littered with pentagrams drawn in dirt and bone. He doesn't seem to notice them, though, as he's too focused on getting away from whatever it was that he saw in that room. Suddenly, he trips over something and falls to the ground. Winded, he looks up and sees that he'd tripped over a tree root. But as he looks around, he realizes that the radio tower and the woods surrounding it are gone. He's now in the middle of a busy city street, and all around him, people are going about their daily lives as if nothing strange had ever happened here. Relief washes over him as he realizes that he's safe. But his relief is short-lived when he looks down and sees the woman in black standing over him, her mouth still sewn shut. She reaches out a hand towards him, and he screams as the screen fades to black. The next morning, a young woman is awakened in her bed by the sound of scratching at her window. She sits up and looks around the room, but there's nothing to be seen. She lies back down, but the scratching continues. She gets out of bed and goes to the window to look out onto the street below, but she can't see anything. The scratching stops, and she hears a knock at her door. She opens the door and finds a man standing there with a bouquet of flowers in his hand. He smiles at her and says, "Good morning, my love," and she smiles back, oblivious to the sinister grin on his face. The camera pans away as the man closes the door behind him, revealing a pentagram drawn on the floor beneath his feet. And so, the nightmare begins anew for the woman trapped in the room with the man with the sewn mouth. And as the rain pours down outside, she realizes that she'll never escape. The end.